Ex-cons Reddit, what was the hardest prison habit to break after being released? I didn't use a fork for a few weeks. Ate everything with a spoon without thinking. It's not the most interesting thing, but I hadn't noticed it posted here. Taking as long as you want in the shower. For the longest time after I got out, I took less than 5-minute showers. Doing laps in prison. Every time you get time on the yard, you do laps. Seriously, almost every single person does it too. When you get out, it's hard to break that habit. I find myself hoarding toilet paper under my bed. Sometimes I do it without thinking and I'll look under there and have 10 rolls of TP. The hardest thing has been to talk without using the words fac, facing or at how in every sentence. Become a trucker or construction worker and you should fit right in. Edit. Or, apparently, a chef cook, software engineer programmer IT, mechanic, sailor marine soldier, or nurse EMS. I was only locked up for 4 months in total. All things considered, I got off easy. Hardest habit to break was just doing something without telling someone else. Hard to remember that there's no authority figure once you're out. I spent 72 months in prison for a tragic car accident that I had caused. After I was released, I kept telling my wife exactly what I was doing without her asking. She thought it was funny at first, but after a few weeks of it she was starting to get bothered. A somewhat friend of mine did a few years, and the one habit he couldn't shake was distrusting people. He said that people in prison are never nice. If they're nice, it's because of a hidden motive. Up to this day he still doesn't trust people who act nice/generous/helpful/ towards him. Making prison commissary only food. Everyone around me thinks it is gross as hell to throw summer sausages, pickles, cheese, Doritos, Cheetos, and such into my ramen noodles, but good lord, I can't stop, and I have been out for 5 years. Not me, but guy who worked for me. When things were very busy, I would often get carry-out lunch for everyone and bring it back to the workplace. This one guy would eat a cheeseburger and french fries in 2 minutes. Wow. Once I asked him why he ate so quickly. He said, well, naps forgma. I spent 7 years in a federal prison, and if you didn't eat your meal in 10 minutes, you didn't get anything. The 10 minutes often included the time it took standing in line to get your food. Okay then. I never said anything to him about it after that. Hey you're a decent human being. You hired an ex-con. Keep up the decency. I'm not that great. I lived in a small coastal community on the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, seafood was the main business, with lots of small boats and subsistence fishing, crabbing, oystering. The FBI put together a sting and hired 4 fishermen to offload what was supposed to be bags of cocaine onto their boats from a large boat that could not go in shallow water. It was actually not cocaine. They were to be paid $10,000, which was, to them, almost a year's income. These 4 fishermen were busted and ended up spending 7 years in federal prison, and a prison far, far away from their families. So I had known this young man for years, and for me, his time in prison was like PFFT. You screwed up, but whatever. He was funny and hardworking and not really bitter about what happened. He worked for me in my small wholesale seafood business and was great. My ex would sleep a certain way all the time. To me it seemed like he was sleeping as if he was in a coffin, his arms crossed, and wouldn't move the entire night for a couple months. He eventually broke that habit. Dude I work with said for the first little bit after getting out he would take a leg out of his pants when he'd sit. Not sure how common that was. Dude's a fighter though, so maybe that had something to do with it. A couple guys I know after being out for 5 to 10 years wrap their arms around their plates and shovel food in their mouths at the speed of light. They are also super defensive of their food. When I first got to know them, I jokingly swiped a chip off one of their plates and he flipped his fork up and demanded I give it back. Freaked me out a little. I don't smoke, but every time someone offered me a cig I would pocket it on the inside. That's a bartering chip. Took me about a month or 2 to break. My friend once told me he got hooked on watching news channels and crappy daytime television. He said he also enjoyed listening to AM radio now, even though he knows specific podcasts exist that are more tailored to him. He killed himself 3 years ago after getting a 20-year sentence just 1 year after getting out. At 18 he served a little over a year in prison for moving marijuana, got out, violated parole and got caught moving mass amounts of marijuana and other things like breaking into homes, petty theft, which was going to send him back for at least 15 years. After the jig was up he had a while where he was allowed to stay at home, where he shot himself with a 9mm pistol in the head. He survived the initial shot but later died 2 days after going to the hospital. Was a great friend and knew him since elementary school. Top of our graduating class in high school, just too much exposure to the wrong people. Being paranoid, always looks over my shoulder and never letting anyone stand behind me. Even people passing on the side of me, I'm always turning my head to see what they're doing. Food, I could be the last one to eat, first one done, and I still stand when I eat around people. God, I got out 2 years ago and I cannot for the life of me shake my aggressive posturing. That's all prison is, being hyper-vigilant, and I would argue worse yet, always appearing indifferent, like you could be kicking it with your friends, laughing, watching TV, but then even the slightest misphrasing of something or a sudden movement will shift the whole mood of the room at a drop of a dime. So whatever emotion you display has to be instantly shut off, and on a moment's notice you have to be booted and suited. I would return to my unit on occasion and there would be blood smeared on the walls from a fight I missed. You didn't look at it. Eyes forward, indifferent. Emotion is weakness, and though I was secretly panicking, I had to bury and put on as a cold mouth officer. I got in one fight. We beat the shit out of each other in the gym area, and if you judged by other people's responses, it was like nothing was happening at all. Many quietly walked away, while others just stood there emotionless. If it had gone south for me, I could have been killed in front of 250 people, and nobody would have said or done jack shit. That is true loneliness, the which of like few people in the first world truly understand. Fact, if I got a bad fever in bed at night, which I did several times, even though there were 6 bunks in my cramped cell, I could have died in my sleep and the guards would have only noticed at count. There were 12 guards on duty for 1,500 inmates. Think about that. If someone wanted to fuck with you, you'd be hamburger meat before a guard showed up. So that's the way it was. High tension all the time, mad respect for everyone, stay jacked as fuck and walk shoulders straight on the yard. In the weight area, I've seen John Cena looking swastika tatted Aryan mouth officers say please and thank you to for weights to Terry Crews looking black power guys, and they said the same back. That's simple. Your fortune is on your back and in the words you speak. Surprisingly, it equated to a surprisingly smooth system. Once you earned your bones, respect, on compound you just went through life like a robot and there was little friction, because everyone knew the smallest spark could ignite an inferno. So many stories I could tell. But the point is that raw genuine brute value has no currency in the real world. People will scoff at you that are the size of your thigh. I get cut off in line at the grocery store. People mean mug from across the room. All that shit is liable to get you hurt in prison, and it's hard to let go of this mentality once you're out. I am an educated white kid from a rural area, and I was thrown into a metropolitan prison. I didn't have an ounce of aggression in me before, and my wife, who has stuck by my side through it all, says I'm as gentle and kind as before. But my prize and maneuverisms stick around nonetheless. She's always telling me not to make such strong eye contact with people, not to cross my arms all the time. Ugh. It is subliminal and I'm getting better at it, but it's been hard as hell to shake. Moral of the story, don't go to prison, kids, because you're only one poor decision away. Realizing I could just get up and go somewhere, that I could make plans tomorrow from 1,000 different choices. Hard to break the habit of checking everyone who enters your vicinity. It feels like you've gotta mark everyone off as a non-threat. Constantly looking over my shoulder. By far the hardest conditioning to break, which I haven't and doubt I ever will, is the constant pessimism and cautious optimism. You see, when you're waiting to work your way through court, get a deal, and get sentenced, you will have your dates changed 50 times, hope for certain things only to be disappointed, and anytime you are told something hopeful it doesn't work out. As a result, I never get excited for something until it actually happens. When my wife told me we were pregnant, I already knew from her symptoms that she was, but still, you never know for sure till you take the test. I was obviously happy, but because I'm always cautiously optimistic and rarely show emotion, I couldn't feel comfortable or excited until I knew that my developing daughter was healthy. Even then, it didn't really hit me till she was born. You can apply this to anything, especially big events. Getting engaged, planning the wedding, buying a house, anything. I still hear from my wife how I wasn't crazy surprised or excited to be having a kid. I actually was the half of the relationship who was dead set on a kid when my wife supposedly could have gone either way. You just can't get your hopes up or look forward to anything until it is here or has happened. I've been home over 7 years now and with my wife for 6.5. She's truly the catalyst that motivated me to truly change my life and to not give any more of my life to the system. But she'll never know how happy she makes me because she misinterprets my cautious optimism realism for pessimism or indifference. Not an ex-con but good friend's uncle did 20 years or so. His habit was how he ate. Everything on the ate got immediately cut, mixed and devoured fast as hell. Don't know why. He always said it's how you did it there. You ate in GTFO as quick as you could. Staring at sharp things like there's no desire to use them inappropriately, but you are just kinda shocked that they're unavailable for use. You might be surprised what qualifies as a sharp object. I remember whenever someone tried to hand me a knife or something to cut veggies, I'd be afraid to touch it. Glass was the biggest thing though, just mirrors in all the bathrooms, real ones. I could smash that sit and have a big jagged weapon. I can't believe this Italian restaurant has such a dangerous thing in their bathroom. Stopping thinking of objects as weapons is hard. Hardest habit: talking sit to dumbass old men who think they're right cause they're old. Easiest habit: I'm never eating top ramen or getting a bowl cut from a Mexican barber again.